life for a lot longer than you. So I feel like people really hold him to like a certain standard, like, well, he believes this and he's a man, and that's the way it works in society. And I wanted to bring up something from also. Do you feel like we owe each other anything, like far as humans? Because remember our discussion about, you were talking about African Americans and how we should help people as, since we're all a family, we bring each other down and we bring each other up. And then someone had remarked what he said, like, so, well, they aren't like my people, like my family is my people, right? So with that being said, like the mentality for like some black people, like, oh, well, this is, I only got to look out for my family, for myself, or I don't owe them anything because they don't do anything for me. I feel like in the story, do you feel like do we owe each other anything? Do we have that responsibility to help someone else when they're suffering if it doesn't directly affect you, or even if it does, it doesn't interfere with your life?
I feel like, yeah, you do, because if the shoe was on the other foot, you would want somebody to help you. If you're in the middle of the ocean and your boat is sinking, and the only person that can save you is somebody from an island, you would want them to come help you, and vice versa. So I feel like we all have a social responsibility to help each other, and not just pertaining to race, because and that was one of my other questions. How did you guys paint these people in both stories? Because they never give us an ethnicity or race or a class. We just make assumptions, and we never get to put ethnicity with a face.
But for the ones who walked away from Honduras, I do believe that the boy in the cellar, I believe that he probably was different, because if you think about it, what made them choose particularly that person, that child, and to put in a cellar and like just never look back and people to just walk away from him and all of that, like he probably was like different, like not necessarily like ethnicity, but he probably wasn't like as economically on the same standard as everyone else, or maybe even the ethnicity. He probably looked different than everyone else. I do believe that he probably was different.
I don't think for the story, like, I don't think it really mattered if he was different or not, or like the origins of why he chose him. I feel like the overall point of the story was the suffrage of someone else for someone else. And so I don't think it really mattered why they chose him. I just think it mattered that they, not him, because you know, the name of his boy girl. I think it just mattered that they had that person there in the cellar or in the basement.
But I feel like even then, like, you need to pose the question, even relating it back to real life of, yes, this person is suffering, but how did it come to be that we as a people are suffering or being oppressed? Like, I think that's another way that you can relate it by asking that question. As in, like, you know, what exactly happened? How did, like the question I asked Missouri yesterday, where at a point in society did African Americans fall off? Because we was up, we was doing good, and then somewhere along the line we just lost sight of who we are as a people, and it just.
Here you can't use the question of race, because now we don't have anything to put it to. You have to just make the assumption. So we can't just say, where did black people go wrong? Where did the human race go wrong?
And you got to think about, like, before even the boy got into the cellar or wherever he was, how the society was, the utopian society was, the obedience. Like, was the little boy like immortal? Like, Amelia gotta be an old place. I'm sure that the little boy wasn't there for over 100 years. And before he even got there, I'm sure that the people of Amelia had to be unhappy with themselves if their happiness is based upon the suffering of the little boy.
And then that comes to think, what made them choose that particular person? Like, what made them choose that particular boy or girl? Like, what was it about them that made them put that specific person in the cellar?
I see it as a test of society. Like, tying it to the thing, I would say that happiness is in the eye of the beholder. Like, the people are doing things that are tradition. They're doing things that they were born into. They don't know what's right or wrong, but they see things that they don't like and they can't change it because they don't know what else is there. So as for them walking away or staying, they're no better than the people who's there to walk away. They're still evil. they're still doing that because good does not exist without evil.
And I wanted to pose a question of what are some of the things portrayed throughout both stories, and how does these things relate to the real world and why?
Well, sorry, can you repeat?
What are some themes portrayed throughout both stories? How does these things relate to the real world and why? And one of the things I was going to say is suffrage, because throughout both stories you can tell that people suffered within the lottery. When they were picking people, it's like, oh my God, you don't know who's going to get picked. And you know, once that person got picked, they had to be, stones were thrown at them, and they basically suffered. And also throughout the ones that walk away from Omelas, the little boy, he was suffering. Like, they were like doing things to him, and it was just bad. That's when
I
suffered.
Sacrifice would be one, because in the real world, we sacrifice things so we could be happy, and that kind of ties into the story, the ones who walk away from Omelas. They sacrificed the little boy, and then in the lottery, when they do the when they stone the person who has the ticket, they sacrifice those people for their happiness, and we sacrifice certain things for our happiness. So that kind of ties into
I said that everything is not what it seems. So in the lottery, you have this pooling of names or families, and usually lottery has a positive connotation to it. So you think, oh, these families are going to be lucky, they're going to win something, this person's going to win something. But in the end, this person ends up not being a winner, but ultimately a loser and falling to their demise. And those who walk away from Omelas, you have this utopian society, quote unquote, but there's a little boy sitting in the basement, scared, afraid, and alone, and he's your sacrifice. So is that really utopian? And even though utopianism is subjective, I would really think that anybody who believes in the theory of utopianism would say that that's not perfect. That's a flaw. And so the utopian society that they have, or they say to uphold, isn't what it seems, because deep down inside they have a secret.
Okay. Seeing as though you said like that they sacrifice and suffrage and how we live in the world, I wanted to like ask a question. So in the real world, like reality, there's always going to be suffering, or somebody's always going to benefit from another person's experience. So do you feel like some things are necessary evil, like some things just are the way they are, they have to happen, and like necessary evil, like how do you feel about it?
I feel like that, it's true. Like Erica said, good doesn't exist without evil. And I feel like if we didn't have evil, we wouldn't understand pain, and we wouldn't have emotions. We wouldn't be such dynamic living creatures.
I feel like we wouldn't understand like some of the things that we go through without it. We wouldn't understand our past history without it. I feel like it's
With
true.
that being said, like you need bad things to highlight the good things. Do you feel like in the stories what they were doing was wrong? Like, do you think that this was like a necessary evil, even for people to that for like Tessie, even though it was last minute, it was kind of hypocritical, but she realized, oh, this is wrong. Like, that's when you like really start to make realizations once bad things happen to you about the real world. So you feel like this was necessary for people to overcome that certain problem?
I can answer that. I feel like for both stories, they're based on like traditions that demands that someone get hurt or someone's died for the good of the community. Like the citizens' lives are sacrificed to ensure good crops. So in today's society, you don't understand why policemen are killing black men. You don't understand why we are targeted. And I feel as if their understanding of sacrifice is a way of living. Like it's something they have to do to get by.
And I wanted to pose this question based upon Amina's question, like, based upon the time that these stories were written, like, do you think that the authors were trying to refer to something or comment on a historical event that happened back in the day in their time period?
Okay.
For the one story, the ones who walked in the facilities, when we was like doing the information on the author, and with the period she wrote about civil rights and everything. I feel like as I said before, I feel like the boy who was locked in the cellar were like the oppressed people, and I feel like the people who walked away were turned a blind eye were people that were like high in society and things they didn't suffer from oppression. So I feel like that was kind of like a real world connection, seeing it. So I'm gonna say like the white man or the white upper class people suffer benefit from the suffrage of the oppressed. And so that's like where I drew the real world connection for that story.
Okay, so happy this question came up. So I went home and I was doing research about Shirley Jackson.
Yeah.
Okay, so the story was written in 1948, all right, and she died in 1965. Now, a little bit of history, 40s was just the end of World War II. So all those issues just happened and she just like came out with this. So with all the like negative things, as soon as the war comes out, the story comes out, people are just, you know, giving even more like negative insight. Or like negative insight but a positive meaning, or no, a reality like check. And also I just want to bring up that she died in 1965, 7 years before women got equal rights. So I feel like that was like really her motivation, like really trying to push out that like women are oppressed and this is not okay. Like we really need to like bring it up and like kind of see how women are put in men's shadow, and like even how they aren't like equals. Like we say like, oh, everybody is equal, but in reality everybody is not equal. There are clearly people that are higher than other people.
And that,
No, that was it.
and that it especially connects to the lottery because Tessie stood up for her husband. She a woman. Her husband, Mr. Hutchinson, is a man. So that really reflects on how women's rights should be equal to the men's rights back then, like how they are now.
Oh, and I wanted to also say, just like how you said, how women stood in the man's shadow, even in the lottery, only the man